How do we do it? And what have been the pitfalls to better financial standing? This hour-long session will provide insight into the necessary and helpful tools needed to develop greater opportunities for wealth creation in your communities. I'm excited to introduce our president, Mayor Frank Scott of Little Rock, for our welcome. Mayor Scott.
Thank you so much, Stacy, and thank you to the member mayors of the African American Mayors Association for being here today and also being a part of the Economic Mobility Leadership Institute Fellows as our member cities. It is truly an honor that we have the opportunity to play a role with the Gates Foundation, and we are grateful for this opportunity where our select cities will have the opportunity to leverage courses from and technical assistance from the Gates Foundation to forward economic mobility in our respective cities for our residents as we all work to close racial wealth gaps, whether it be from addressing affordable housing to doing the work of ending homelessness, focusing on food insecurity, but more importantly, us also understanding financial literacy. And as we continue to focus on the gamut, the multitude of reasons why there are wealth gaps and how we change the wealth gap to wealth sustainability, we have this opportunity to listen, learn, and leverage resources from the Gates Foundation as a partner with the African American Mayors Association, which we are grateful to them to be a part of this. So very grateful for the Gates Foundation, very grateful for the African American Mayors Association for working with the Gates Foundation to receive these resources to do this work, and a work that's solely focused on equity within our communities. And I want to take this time to welcome everyone to these sessions. We know schedules are tight, but the fact that we're all here, and we know there'll be times where we all have to leave from time to time, but we'll have commitments from our respective teams that are part of the resources as well as we continue to move forward. And as I see the first Vice President Mayor Sean Patterson Howard here today, I want to say hello, as well as the Media PAB President Mayor Turner as well, and all the other member mayors. So thank you so much and welcome.
Thank you, Mayor Scott. Our partners from GoDaddy will lead us today in a presentation detailing initiatives around using data tracking and support to improve the financial standing of African American communities. After our GoDaddy presentation, we will proceed with our roundtable discussion. Please remember to use the chat box feature to ask questions throughout this session. And without further ado, let's begin. Today we have with us Ms. Alexandra Rosen. She is the Senior Director of Community Engagement for GoDaddy, driving the company's Venture Forward and GoDaddy Open initiatives. These initiatives shine a spotlight on the outsized economic impact made by more than 20 million US micro businesses and partner with mayors, policymakers, and local organizations to empower and support these entrepreneurs at every stage. Please welcome Alex Rosen of GoDaddy to the Economic Mobility Leadership Institute.
Thank you so much, Stacy, and thank you, mayors and everyone, for your time today. Phyllis, wonderful to see you as always.
Yes.
I'm going to jump right in. Please feel free to stop me along the way, but I'm going to try to go pretty quickly. There's going to be a lot of data shared, and I'm happy to follow up anytime, and my contact info will be at the end as well. But just want to lay the foundation to start. So let me make sure I have the right screen shared. All right. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Fantastic. All right. So a little bit backgrounds very quickly around Venture Forward. Venture Forward looks at 20 million micro businesses and quantifies the impact. One of the reasons we love speaking to mayors is because mayors are such a strong conduit for making an impact on the local communities, making this knowledge useful. And so this initiative was started in 2018. And today we look at almost 21 million micro businesses and their impact. And then we break that out further. We look at them both quantitatively by their activities on the internet. 95% of them are less than 10 employees, and majority of them are solopreneurs, as we call them. We also survey them twice a year nationally and then by city. So today I'm going to share insight into the work we've done partnering with economists and political scientists and measuring their impact, and then also more insight into their attitudes and needs. One of the main insights for us of what motivates us is that you can't create policy for what you can't see. This is what we heard when we first started this project from Jim Hawk. And this, I would say, is double important for the communities that get even less attention and policies that are customized to their needs. And so today we broke out both what we see across all micro businesses, what we see across Black-owned micro businesses, and we sometimes distinguish as well by both, by including gender in there as well. So women-owned, Black women-owned micro businesses, because needs really vary by the owner. So as I mentioned, we partner with economists to really put our data through the ringer and see what is the impact of them. Why do these teeny businesses matter? Because they have an outsized impact. For every incremental additional one micro business per 100 people in a county, it adds $195 to the median household income growth. So in 1 year, that's a pretty big difference for on a county level. It reduces unemployment rate by 0.05%. And we saw this during the pandemic and during economic downturns, that as companies shift online or they're able to bring in revenue and maybe not lay people off or create new jobs. And speaking of job creation, that for every one everyday entrepreneur, there's 2 or more jobs created on top of their own. That's because they're either hiring people to work for them, hiring people to work with them on their venture, or bringing just income, infusing it into their community. Now, looking at zip codes, so we're talking county level, looking at zip code level, this impact's even greater. So it adds about $27 to household median income across the 40,000 plus zip codes in the US. When we look at Black communities, in particular of different proportions of, and below you could see how many zip codes there are with 60% or more Black residents or 80% or more, we see that income is even greater in terms of what a micro business can do. And again, a micro business is having a domain and a website. So it's not about half have brick and mortar, but it's not necessary. This inspired us to look further. And so we do a survey, as I mentioned. So what we were showing was the data of where do we know the presence of these micro businesses are and what their effect is against census information. When we surveyed them, what we find is that opportunity gaps can be closed. The groups that are most affected during economic downturns and economically exacerbated are the ones that have turned the most towards micro businesses, digital micro businesses in particular. So as you could see here across different groups by age, by race, by gender, post-COVID has seen a rise. So since 2020. And one fun fact that I think is really inspiring is of all micro businesses created since 2020, 1 in 6 was created by a Black woman. So going a little deeper into zip codes, looking at the trending of when these micro businesses started. As you can see here, this is going from August 2019 to July 2022. So about a 3-year range. Communities with different proportions of Black residents have all seen an upturn in micro businesses at even greater trajectory than communities that have different makeup. In particular, why these are a little bit jagged and what I wanted to call out is communities that have the highest percentage of Black residents have the most micro businesses per 100 people, 21. If national average is closer to around 3 micro businesses per 100 people at a city level, I apologize, not a zip code level. You could see here that the higher the percentage, the communities that have about a third tend to have on average around 6 micro businesses, and that continued to grow. The communities that are 2/3, anywhere from 1/3 to 2/3 Black residents, really continue to grow, are now over 4 micro businesses per 100 people. And those over 2/3 are up to 20. And I mean, oftentimes this is because one person will have multiple micro businesses. They'll start multiple ventures, multiple websites. This is a quick snapshot. I knew some of the, we've spoken with some of the mayors who were going to be on this call, and some of the communities we've looked at closely. So I wanted to give a snapshot of a couple of the densities that you could see and the presence. So the teal is the highest concentration and the dark blue is the lightest concentration. So this is just a snapshot looking at September 2022 of the by zip code, how they're distributed. I'll stop there for a sec in case there's questions and or if there's any surprises. Okay, I'll keep going.
It seems in Atlanta and Birmingham, those colors follow race.
Follow race.
Not sure about New Orleans, but just a note. Yes.
So
As far
then
as the presence of business.
are there more or
people
less
live.
by?
Yeah. So North Atlanta, for example, based on what you said, teal is, or south of Birmingham, where the teal is. I guess it would make sense for New Orleans to be the same.
Mm-hmm. So, if we're looking at the presence, we also then want to look at what are their needs and what are the trends we're seeing. I know this EMLI and this awesome initiative is really about financial literacy. And one of the conversations I had with Stacy was around digital literacy being part of that financial literacy conversation, because what are the opportunities that come out of focusing on the ability to leverage the internet for entrepreneurial efforts. And what we can see here again is that looking since the pandemic, almost half of Black-owned businesses, current micro businesses that we've surveyed, started since the pandemic. Ambitions are much higher in terms of desire to grow, and actual steps taken towards that. So having an employee identification number, for example, is much higher around Black-owned businesses versus non-Black-owned. So there's an appetite and there's a hunger. When we look at what's happening in terms of deriving income, Black-owned businesses do tend to derive income more from their ventures, but it's not necessarily more of a main source of income. Oftentimes it is supplementary income, which again reflects the economics, like in terms of pay equity, things like that. That's not surprising. And then in terms of monthly revenue decrease in the last 6 months, though, yet again, when there's economic difficulties, Black-owned businesses tend to be affected more. And so again, what I would probably say is, I'm sure much of this is not surprising in terms of the takeaways, but our goal is to help give the data to support policies or the use cases needed to help address this situation and the phenomena that's being observed. We believe, not we believe, I think you believe, as the pillars of your community and the leaders of your community, government programs can really help build the financial literacy and improve these outcomes. What we saw in our surveys is that Black-owned micro businesses are often less aware and therefore utilize less what's available locally to them, despite being extremely ambitious. So there's a gap there that's clear. What are the things they need help with? What we've seen is, and what you see here is national average just Black respondents. And then, so again, we took a look at the specific communities, again, in case other mayors are interested in kind of local surveys, just showing what our data can cover. That marketing and access to capital are in much higher proportions as cited as a need by Black and African-American respondents. However, help getting online in general, nationally, is less, but is very high in these 3 particular cities that we surveyed. So that leads to GoDaddy Open. So this is what I spoke about was Venture Forward, which is our insights. GoDaddy Open is an evolving and growing initiative we have where we want to work together to support local micro businesses. Our success metric is really just, were we able to share this information? Was it useful to you? And was it applied in some way? We are not, all of this data is available for free on our website at godaddy.com/ventureforward. We're not taking any money for any of this. And we have webinars, we have developing resources where we're trying to increase digital literacy, helping people with e-commerce, things like that. Because really the success of the entrepreneurs is helping make a more inclusive economy. And that is GoDaddy's vision and mission, is to just help make a more inclusive economy and help entrepreneurs everywhere. So I just want to kind of say that we definitely welcome anyone reaching out who wants more cuts of data, wants to collaborate with us. We recently partnered with the city of Baltimore and we had an event, profiled some of the entrepreneurs, hosted some lessons. We're also doing that in Las Vegas. And so we're really eager to work with cities to, again, share this data, give whatever insights, support you and your policies and programs, and contribute to the important mission of helping build generational wealth and financial literacy. Our lens of expertise is through the digital entrepreneurship aspect.
Alex, thank you. Could you maybe flesh out a little bit more? What did that Baltimore Open event look like?
Sure. So we'll follow up with a couple of resources, a kind of an overview of it, as well as a video recap. But it was an all-day event. We worked with their local organization called Impact Hub as well, that already had resources and offered support for local entrepreneurs. And we partnered with them to have a day of panels, a day of guides, helping people with their businesses, getting online, expanding online, and then sharing a documentary we made around local entrepreneurs to really highlight the stories. What we found is every city is really different. The objective of cities are different. The cultural makeup of every city is different. And so this isn't in it. GoDaddy Open is no way cookie cutter. It's really, that's why it says customized here. But we really mean it of, we like to work with the local policymaker and the local organization to develop 2 things. One, whether it's an in-person event, what are the needs? So is it artists? Is it people who are into biotech? Is it mom and pop shops looking to get online? Every city kind of has a different makeup, like our surveys show. But in general, help with marketing, help with getting online, etc. The other piece of it is we offer digital communities. So if they have questions, they can come anytime to these discussion forums and groups that we're hosting, and those can be specific to a city. So with Baltimore, we created a Baltimore specific group where entrepreneurs and local experts can connect anytime. And so that's something we offer as well.
Thank you. We can open up the floor if anyone has any questions for Alex.
Yeah, I have one. Mayor Brian K. Jackson, City of Beverly Hills, Missouri. When it comes to the support that GoDaddy is giving, especially when it comes to the event that you said y'all did in Baltimore, those entrepreneurs, when they are helped to expand, especially digitally, is there any extended support for them after your event? Because what we find sometimes is small businesses, me being a small businessman as well, somebody may come, or college students may come and set my website up for me, but somebody has to maintain that website for it to continue to be viable and effective.
Mayor Jackson, that's such a great question, and you're absolutely right. We're not trying to come in a splashy way. We don't do many in-person events, and agree with you. It's kind of what I call a blimp effect of when you like roll in really big and then you roll out. this is why we believe in the always on digital aspect of the communities. It's that it is those LinkedIn groups, it is connecting with the guides who are experts, because and I mentioned this to Stacy yesterday, of these entrepreneurs are trying to do their jobs. They're trying to create what they're creating. They're not trying to be digital experts. And so they do need ongoing support. It's not just about getting on, it's about continuing. So we are working on that. That event only happens in tandem with the beforehand and the afterwards digital communities, where they have people to ask questions, to connect with. Again, levels of support, we're still developing. This is a new program, so I can't promise that we have someone that's available to do their website for them on an ongoing basis. But our plan is to offer continuous support, again, through online, through webinars. So teach them to fish, but also really handhold them where possible, in a way they can reach out that's free and accessible.
Thank you.
Of course.
Have any more questions for Alex?
So
Alex?
Alex, let me just ask, so that was a digital all-day event in Baltimore?
That was in person. The Baltimore event was in person. It was an all-day in-person event. In Las Vegas, we did one hosted at the local libraries, and then we're working. And it's kind of, we try to plug into the ecosystem. Again, we're not trying to own the experience. We just want to help support it with that lens of digital entrepreneurship, because it's also not even about us necessarily getting more customers. It's about the fact that digital entrepreneurship is such an easy on-ramp and accessible way for people to improve their situation, a way for them to bring money into their communities or wherever they are without having to move, without having to change anything, without having to depend on anyone. One fact I didn't put in the slides, but it really stood out to us, is the motivations for starting your own business. Most people started it either to be their own boss. African American and Black respondents were more likely to say that they did it to give back to their community, a lot more. And so there's just so many motivations. And again, it's the cost, the barrier to entry is lower with digital entrepreneurship. And so our goal is just to make it accessible.
Can you go back to that map of with Birmingham and Atlanta and New Orleans?
Absolutely.
That graphic, I should say.
Absolutely. 1 second.
I want to make sure that I understood it. Explain it one more time.
This one, right?
That one, yes.
Absolutely. So what we show here is a city center breakout. We make these out of a combination of zip codes. So every border, white border, is a zip code. And so we put in the zip codes that we associate with the city. So again, if there's correction here, we're open to it, but the zip codes that make up, let's say, Birmingham. And then what we look at is, and it's definitely not intuitive, is what is the density of micro businesses per 100 people. So because absolute numbers make it hard to compare how someone's doing. Like you can see here that national city center average is less than 8 per 100 people. The average for across these cities is, all of them is higher than 8 per 100 people. But what they show is by each color, how many per 100 people. So the darkest blue means there's anywhere from 1 to 1.7 micro businesses per 100 people. So we talked to 100, one of them is going to have a website. And as we scale up, the highest one goes to, there's almost 12 per 100 people. So 12% of the, I can't say 12% of the people, because a lot of times people have more than one, but for every 100 people, you will find anywhere from 12 to 57 micro businesses, AKA active websites.
Okay, so the lighter shade is reflective of more micro businesses per 100 people.
That's exactly right, Mayor.
Okay, all right, that's what I wanted to be sure.
You see.
Okay.
Yeah, so again, I know that was a little bit of very detailed. But I just want to give the full range of what's available, because whether it's the surveys, whether it's where these micro businesses are, how many of them are per zip code, whether it's, you know, what their needs are, or what we're seeing, their economic outlook is right now, the optimism they show, the organization, we want to either uncover needs or help give data for you to be able to push through and help support them with data.
Okay, and then one final question for me, and
Yeah.
do an assessment of where these businesses are, let's say like 2 years after the fact. Are they still in business, or has the percentage of businesses that still exist 2 years after their creation?
It's a really great question. So I can follow up with you on that one. Our research team does look at churn. For privacy reasons, we don't do that at zip code level, because that's because then it ends up kind of giving away a lot. But we could say what's the change in density. So maybe one area had a high concentration, now they don't. But in general, how many are still in business after 2 years, things like that, the churn, we can definitely share those numbers.
Okay, thanks, I appreciate it.
Thank you, Alex. We really appreciate you presenting to the mayors today. And mayors, we want you to know everything that she talked about will actually be captured and sent to you, and you'll have access to look at some of this information after this session. We'll now move to the second part of today's session, which is the roundtable. And Phyllis, I'll let you take it away.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining today. So on this section, according to the February 18, 2020 Black Enterprise magazine article, there were a little over 2,700 billionaires in the world, but only 15 were Black, and only 9 of the 15 are American, and only 2 of the 15 are women. So what do they know that we don't know? And on some level, I think they understand money. They understand assets, budgets, depreciation, investments, passive income, savings, stocks, and return on their investments. In order to create wealth, we must understand money. And so we had this conversation actually in our office the other day, and most of our staff are under the age of 30. So we asked a significant question. What does wealth mean to you? So define wealth. So Mayor Wolfen, I know you're on mute right now, but since you're in that younger category, I'm going to ask you just real quick, what does wealth actually mean to you?
Well, if I was quoting one of my favorite artists, Andre 3000, it would mean so my kids' be taken care of. Wealth extends beyond me. It extends to several generations past me to make sure families taken care of. So wealth is above living paycheck to paycheck. Wealth is above even being rich. Wealth is related to generations, not one, but multiple generations beyond where you are being taken care of. And that's not just for my family, but that would be for all families.
Perfect, perfect. And Mayor Turner, I know we're a little bit more mature in age, so give us your definition of what wealth means.
Phyllis, I'm only slightly older than Mayor Wolfen. But I will attempt to answer that question. But look, from my vantage point, is that when you have taken care, when you have enough money to take care of all of your obligations, all of your expenses, all of credit, whatever, all of your financial obligations are taken care of. You don't have to worry about that. And you have exponentially more money, more assets left, okay? When your net worth is exponentially more than what you have to pay out or obligated to pay out, then you have wealth creation, where you can, and to follow up on Mayor Wolfen, when you can bequeath it to your children, grandchildren, where you can do almost whatever you want to do. And you don't owe anybody a darn dime. You know, to me, that's when you have wealth. When I can start being a investor and contributor, and I'm not financially impacted at all. Okay, when the market can go up and down, and I'm still in a position where financially I'm going to be just fine. You know, that's to me when you have wealth. There's no house note on any of my houses. Okay. There's no car note on any of my cars. Okay. Where I can plan my vacations, my trips, and I'm not even concerned about the price tag. Okay. To me, that's where I have wealth. When I decide that I'm no longer mayor and I don't have to worry about what my next job is going to be. Okay. If another dime doesn't come in, I can just sit on my wealth creation and smile. To me, that's wealth.
Great definition, great definition. Mayor Patterson Howard, I have a question for you. So what is the biggest challenge facing our communities when building wealth?
And she's Mayor Wolfton's age, so you know, so we
That would be nice. You're so kind. Well, I think that one of the biggest challenges is that we don't understand the difference between being comfortable, well off, rich, and wealthy. And there's, you know, like they said, there's multiple levels to this game. People think because they can buy a Louis Vuitton bag, that means they have money, because it is relative, right? If when you were growing up, you couldn't get a Michael Kors bag, but now you can get a Louis, and okay, now you've leveled up from a Louis to a Birkin. People think they're rich, right? Because we don't understand. And so what Mayor Woodfin said about your children and your children's children, we think about the Bible, they talk about your children, your children's children, and many generations afar off. So it's more than my mortgage being paid and more than me being able to have a Bentley and a Beam, you know, and a Beamer. It's more than that. It's knowing that my grandchildren are going to have houses. It's knowing, and they're not going to necessarily have to work for it. What I'm able to pass that down, and whatever they do will build upon that foundation. And I think that's the reason why we're having the conversation about generational wealth. Because oftentimes we make money and we're like, well, I made my money, now you better go out and make it yourself. And that's what we tell our kids, make it yourself. And we're not planning to leave a foundation for them to build upon, or in retirement, you know, our dream is to be able to travel as much as we want to, maybe sell our house and buy a townhouse. So we don't have anything to maintain, we're going to downsize. But that's not building wealth. That's just being very comfortable. That's us having a comfortable living based on what we've toiled for our life for. And I don't want to just have a comfortable living. I want to make sure that my children and my grandchildren have a comfortable living. Not saying that they don't have to work for it. I want them to continue to build so that their grandchildren can have it. But I think our definition and our understanding of what it means to be comfortable and wealthy and rich means, I don't think most of our people really have a reference point. It means moving from, you know, downtown Atlanta to, or Dixie Hills in Atlanta to, you know, out in the suburbs and buying a bigger house, 3,000 square feet, 5,000 square feet. We don't know. We don't have a baseline for what it means. Most of us, it's relative.
Perfect, perfect. So Mayor Scott, I know you're getting ready to go to a speaking engagement. I just remember when I was a little girl, my mom used to sit me at the table to pay all her bills. And my job was to pull the little perforated piece of the bill and put it in the envelope and match the check up with it. And I was 4 when I started doing that. And so Mayor Scott, I know you're a former banker and that kind of thing. But can you tell me how you learned about money and wealth?
Yes, I really, unfortunately, but like many people, I really didn't learn about wealth until really high school. And that was literally just from a business class that I just happened to take my 12th grade year. But really, when I was able to go to college and being a first generation college student on both sides of my family, when I took finance, that's really when I started understanding the world of finance, the world of money, the world of wealth. And then more importantly, when I became a banker, I quickly realized the difference between rich and wealthy. And then I also quickly realized the difference between, as Mayor Turner would recognize, being a former business lawyer, the difference between being real estate rich and being liquid. And so you can have a lot of real estate assets that, while you may at the time had the money to get the loan for, but until you own it outright, you're not necessarily liquid. And liquid from the standpoint of having, if all else fails, that you have access to a steady stream of cash to take care of any necessities. And I think that's one of the reasons why, and I know Mayor Woodfin has worked on this policy through his Birmingham Promise work, that we have to have more 529 plans within early childhood education and within the K through 12 system. So our young brothers and sisters aren't learning about finance, aren't learning about financial literacy in the 12th grade or after college, post-secondary life, but they learn it very early on, so we can rid ourselves of debt opportunities and debt options. And at least if we do have to take on, and sometimes it's good to take on debt, that we understand how debt can be used and how debt can be used against us. And so that's kind of my story.
Perfect, perfect. Yeah, so looking back over my life, I got my first savings account when I was 13 because I had that good government summer jobs program in Little Rock. And so I was able to start having a savings account very, very young. But Mayor Jackson, so how do you save money and invest when there simply isn't enough to begin with? And is it difficult to get a business license in your municipality, or setting up the process to streamline that in your business, in your municipality?
So thanks for asking. One of the things with saving money, and both of my kids, both of them are HBCU, one grad, one student at Howard University. But we started their bank accounts when they were like 10 years old. And so what we were always taught to pay yourself first. But as you grow and begin to acquire bills, it's harder to pay yourself first because sometimes that money is gone before you get it. And so building wealth is, it's a lot about position, being in a position to do certain things. Being in, it's about ownership. When we look at, when you're talking about land, it's about my aunt, God rest her soul, she was one of those in Mississippi that never sold her land. So while she didn't have a lot of money, she had over 300 acres of land. And many people tried to buy it from her, but all of her kids' houses were able to be built on her land. So every one of her kids that has a house, their house is on her land. She owns the land where her kids' houses are. So when you start talking about generational wealth, that's part of it. But then when you start talking about licenses, and City of Beverly Hills, we're one of the easiest places to get a business license. The problem is when you get to small cities like ours, a lot of times you landlocked, so where you can put businesses And that's why all of us, I'm a part of a group called 24-1 Municipal Partnerships. We recognize all across the nation as doing something that nobody else does, with 23 mayors working together. So getting a license, we've made that kind of a common thing. The problem is that many people, when you're talking about African Americans, they don't have the wherewithal and support to get the license, especially when you're talking about some businesses, like say for instance, a home health business where they got to have the building, they got to have it set up before they even get a license with the state to do it. Then so they don't even come for our business license until they've done that. And that could take 9 to 12 months. And most African Americans, they can't pay $1,100, $1,500 in rent for 9 months until the state decide, number one, that you have a license, and then to come and go through our process of getting a license locally. So we find ourselves, just like in some of the housing markets with the degentrification of some of our neighborhoods, they just price you out of the market of your own neighborhood. It's happening all over. I was in the Roxbury in Boston. I was in LA. I've been in other cities, and they're doing the same thing. Even here in St. Louis, some houses and, large houses in the city of St. Louis that I could have got for $1,500. They've now put about $125,000 in it and put it back on the market for $300,000-$400,000. So they don't have to discriminate against you. They just price you out of the market. Home ownership is a part of wealth building. And so getting licenses and saving money is I always teach my kids that streams of income are your greatest driver to build wealth, because you're just not gonna make it from clocking in every day. So even with my son that graduated from North Carolina A&T, he has his own clothing line, he has his own fitness company, and he's a civil engineer. And he still has two other businesses, and he coaches one of the high schools in basketball and track and field, also to create income. And so it's about we're never able to build to scale. So when you start talking about franchising, and so we'll start a liquor store, but we never think about having a liquor store in St. Louis, Chicago, Indianapolis, and in Memphis. We just don't think that far. If we got a salon, we don't think about having a salon here and one in Atlanta and one down in Houston, because we just don't have the money to build to scale, so our money grows exponentially. And so there's a lot of things that I'm doing, a lot of things that I've already got set up to try to help some of these young people to get to that place where they can work together to get where they're trying to go, so we can create some more billionaires, because it's a lot about opportunity. That's all it is. It's about opportunity. Sometimes you're just in the right place at the right time and you met the right person and they gave you an opportunity and you turned it into something great. I'll stop there. I'm sorry.
No problem. Thank you. So Mayor Turner, I know that you've done a lot as it relates to building generational wealth. And so what do you think are the long-term benefits of building real wealth in our communities? And how do you measure and collect that data in Houston?
Okay. I think we have to reach the point where we have more people who own rather than who are borrowers. As long as you have a lot of your people who are dealing with and dependent on, let's say, on credit or where they're borrowing, it's hard to move people to the next level. So in the city, we are trying to create more entrepreneurs and provide them with opportunities to scale beyond where they have ever been. I've been mayor now for 7 years. And we just gave a report out that we've given more business to businesses of color than any time in the history of this city. And then if you break that down, we have given more business to African American businesses anytime than in the history of this city. The hope is that as you help to these entrepreneurs to establish a very strong financial base, as I think was indicated in the GoDaddy report, for example, these micro businesses, they will hire more. And so it will extend more in the communities from which they come from or where they live. Others will benefit from creating these, helping these businesses become very strong financially. And quite frankly, from a personal point of view, that's how I got started. I initially was a part of a large law firm. And there were several of us who left the large law firm to start a business of our own. And initially there were 5 of us. Then it went down to 2 because of that. The hardest time for these businesses are in the first 5 years. And so it then narrowed to 2. And then we hung in there. And I'll never forget, I got a call from a lawyer on the other side who called me around December and said, "Look, do you want to settle this case?" And it was what we call a wrongful death lawsuit. And my partner and I told him, yeah, but if you're serious, he said, well, why don't you come to, in this case, Longview, Texas, on the other side of Dallas? And I said to him, I will come if you are serious in wanting to settle the case. And he said yes. And the reason why I emphasized that because we were down to the last credit card, which was almost maxed out. And so on that one credit card where we still had some credit left, we flew to Dallas, rented a car, drove to Longview, and then we entered into settlement negotiations. He made an offer. And I will tell you, in this case, he offered us like $1.5 million to settle. And I quickly rejected it and said, hell, if you wanted to do that, you could have done that over the phone. And then he made another offer after we made one, which was higher. I quickly rejected it. And my law partner kicked me under the table. And then he said, my law partner said, I tell you what, we need to contact the client. We have an obligation, so if you all will step out. And my law partner said to me, he said, number one, don't let your ego get in the way here. Number two, remember, we have nothing left here. The client needs the money. We need the money. It's Christmas time. And so, be careful. Anyway, long story short, we end up selling that case. It changed the business like that. The clients were very satisfied with the end offer, and our financial base changed. And then after that, things just started to come in. So for businesses and entrepreneurs, sometimes the hardest task is just staying around long enough for things to turn around. And then once your financial base as an entrepreneur is strong enough where you can start scaling up, things will change. So that's what we're trying to do with businesses, entrepreneurs in this city, is give them that opportunity to sow seeds into them so that they can scale, and then they can go and do businesses with others, and they will hire more people, and those families will benefit. And so that's how we're measuring that every year. We look at who's doing what, who's getting what, how have they expanded, how many more employees have they hired, take a look at whether or not they're doing now businesses with others. And then I'll close with this. I think it was, I can't recall which, it may have been Maynard Jackson, I can't recall, who said that our task as elected official, our task is to help to create millionaires or multimillionaires. That's our task. Now, he said, that doesn't mean that you go up in the tree and you shake the tree and then you run down to catch the apples when the apples are falling. That will get you in trouble, and that's a mistake. But as mayors, for example, we're in the tree, shaking the tree for the apples to fall. And hopefully those entrepreneurs that are taking these apples are growing their business and then helping others and employing other people and benefiting neighborhoods, and those neighborhoods are growing. That's how we're measuring Phillips. And at the end of the day, for example, as I get prepared to leave at the end of the year, you take a look at how many businesses are now thriving or in much better shape, or how many businesses have come onto the scene than existed before you got here.
I think that's a sermon, you guys, in and of itself. And so, Mayor Wolfen, I know you're a little bit younger, so I'm going to be like Drake, started from the bottom, now we're here. So, based on this subject, how does this topic like really impact your city, particularly groups of color? And do you offer any financial literacy classes, you know, for these targeted community constituents like you, single parents, elderly? I know I grew up in a single parent household, but thank God my mom had a college degree and was able to show me how to, you know, be financially stable. So just want to hear that from Birmingham.
So we're approaching this on multiple fronts. The first thing we did was start with our own internal employees. I have about 3,500 employees here at the city of Birmingham. We partnered with John Brown Hope program to where we offer financial literacy to all of our employees. But it was particularly targeted at our public works employees, our firefighters, and our police officers. So we found just related to their pay versus home issues, world issues, significant challenges about how they do pension loans and all that type of things. And so our ability to engage internally our own employees and offer financial literacy to our own employees at no cost to them proved to be a game changer. And I thought it was important that I walk out what I was saying and preaching. And so I even joined the program as myself and learned a lot for myself related to my own credit, related to my own opportunity to buy a home, et cetera, et cetera. In addition to that, externally, we are fortunate to be a part of a few cities across America that have done the guaranteed income. Our program has been for single mothers. It turns out not just single mothers, but single Black women make up 62% of households in our city, which is pretty extreme and large. So we provided them a $375, and through a pilot program, we provided a few hundred women with $375 guaranteed income, no strings attached at all. However, our ability to assess and monitor what they've been spending on, it turns out they are supporting the things they need to take care of their household, with bills, with healthcare, their children, et cetera. Then the biggest thing I'm proud of and the biggest investment we've made to the tune from the city of a minimum of $1 million a year is a robust financial literacy curriculum for K through 12 children, in partnership with several private organizations whose total business is financial literacy. And I think this program long-term will be a game changer. Ultimately, the idea is for when these children become adults, they won't do the same thing adults do in their neighborhoods, which is walk into a cash checking place. It is my desire to put predatory cash checking places out of business in our neighborhoods. The only way I know how to do that is invest in the next generation, teach them financial literacy so they won't do the same thing.
Perfect. And did you tell us the name of your program for your employees?
Did I? I did not, because I don't even remember the name of it.
You can send it to Stacy later. Some of the cities are asking so that they can.
Yeah, the program was definitely with John Bryan Hope, but you know, the name of it internally for what it was called, I don't remember, but it was through um, John Bryan Hope's program.
Perfect, perfect. Yeah, if you could share the point of contact in that program with Stacy, she can share it with the group. Some of the other cities want to know the name of it. And so Mayor Patterson Howard, as we close out, can you close us out as a leader? What have you found most effective way as the most effective way to build wealth?
Well, absolutely, excuse me, starting with the education. So this may not be the answer, but it's kind of going back to what you asked Mayor Woodfin. We are a Mayors for Guaranteed Income community. And one of the things that we also did is we partnered with the Cities for Financial Empowerment, and we did the Financial Navigators. Now we are moving to the next level, and we are opening up a financial empowerment center here in the city of Mount Vernon. I think it'll be the 3rd in the state of New York and the 40th in the country. And the 4 things that we focus on is banking, savings, credit, and debt. Many of our people just don't understand the basics of it. And so what's great about the Financial Empowerment Center, it is that it will be a free service. And it goes beyond kind of the financial literacy classes to providing that one-on-one counseling that oftentimes most of us don't have the ability to pay for, right? And since we can't pay for it, when you don't have money to pay for it, then you never learn how to build wealth. And so these are one-on-one financial services where we'll be working with people around banking, creating savings, fixing their credit, reestablishing their credit, and then addressing their debt. And then also working towards home ownership, learning how to access capital for their business, their micro business, so that they can purchase a home, so that they can not lose their home. And so these are some of the basics that we're doing here in the city of Mount Vernon, and we're just piling it up. We're also using some of our ARPA money to do a Mount Vernon First program, and they're being done around the country, but that's taking money, investing into some of our smaller storefronts or our micro businesses to help them get moving. Everything that's been said, when people from your community start businesses, more money is poured into the community and more people are hired. We are right outside of New York City, and I see people come in, and I'm going to be very clear, of different ethnicities all the time. And they pull into Mount Vernon every day in our downtown area with a van full of their relatives that they're bringing from the Bronx, Brooklyn, Queens, Staten Island, or Manhattan. And they all operate a store, and they don't hire one person in our community. But yet they make the money and they take it out. And then sometimes the services are given on a different level because they know that we don't have anything else to use from. And so, for us, it's really about teaching, building wealth. So the Financial Empowerment Center is something we're going to have for the adults. But at the same time, Hassan Bilal and his partners from Earn Your Leisure, they're one city over in Greenberg. And they've been going around the country, especially in our Black communities, and really focusing on wealth building and generation. And they are looking to partner with us to go into our school system to start to educate our young people. But I don't want to just educate our young people, because oftentimes we educate our young people. I want to connect with the PTAs and educate the parents, because I've seen children learn how to save and parents destroy their children's savings because they need to take money out of their children's savings account to pay for a vacation or pay for a phone bill or a Con Ed bill or rent that's backed up, or because they want it for something else, or they're putting bills in their children's name because their utilities have been cut off. So we can educate the young people, but we also just really, really have to, we can be as sophisticated as we want, but we're going to oftentimes miss the people who need the support the most. And so we have to find an air, land, and sea approach. Those who might have good jobs and some decent credit and how you build from there, but those who've really, really never been taught how to save in the first place. And as I've always said, a lot of times we have good businesses that are starting, but we never teach people how to take their hustle to a business. And so we want to make money, we want to keep the money, we want to put it, and not have we want to have a cash business. But when you have a cash business and you've kept no books, than when you're ready to go from braiding hair in your house or doing baking in your house or catering out of your house to get a storefront. You don't have any financial records to really show your level of success. So it's about increasing the capacity of people to really understand how to start their businesses, how to grow their businesses, and how to make sure that we're doing it in a way that's legal and by the book, so that when monies like this become available, they're even eligible for it. And oftentimes when they're not eligible, they scream, somebody got a hookup. No, no one ever hooked you up and taught you what you needed to walk into a bank and ask for money or to get a grant or things of that nature. And so sometimes we need to just start at the very elementary levels. And so I'm excited because I think what we're doing through EMLI are going to give us tools to deal with people at the different levels.
Thank you. Stacy, close us out.
Fantastic. Thank you all for joining us today. We've recorded today's session and we'll make it available to you online. You'll also be sent copies of today's presentation items for your review. Again, special thanks to our partners at GoDaddy for joining our first session. Stay tuned for more information about our January 27th, 2023 Wealth Session in the coming days and weeks. Be sure to follow us on social media at Our Mayors and visit us online at ourmayors.org. Thank you for joining us today, and this concludes this session.
Have a great afternoon.